ever wonder what it would be like to ride around in the mystery machine and just debunk all kinds of stories? Well, my next guest, I am so excited for you guys to meet. He actually does that for a living. So let's get the show started. Hey, Kale! Long time no see.
I know. How are you?
Good. You went to a convention just recently. I'm excited to. I love seeing your pictures. By the way,
Yes,
how was it?
It was crazy. So many people. There were 3 conventions going on that weekend at the convention center here in Indy. So it was like 200,000 people, 17 lost kids,
Oh no!
lots of lost weapons at the info booth.
What was your favorite weapon that did you have to sadly return them though?
Yeah, I had a big sword, lots of guns, all kinds of things coming up. So, yeah, it was a crazy time.
All right. So our guest today is host of Skeptical Health Bar, uh, Kenny Biddle, and I I met this guy. Well, okay, I personally haven't met him until today, but I ran it like I found his videos on YouTube and TikTok, and I kind of went on a deep dive stalking spree. So I really apologize, Kenny. But you know what? I'm just going to bring him up. He's an awesome guy. Kenny, please introduce yourself.
I love how the introduction is. Well, I started stalking him. Like that's
I'm gonna
you know
be
what
completely
you're
honest
not.
with you. That's what I did.
You made it when you're being stalked. Like you did something. I don't know if it was good or bad, but you did something because somebody wants to devote so much time, and I appreciate that. That's actually one of the best compliments you can get.
Oh,
Um,
thank you.
Thank you. So yeah, I am. My name is Kenny, Kenny Biddle, and I am. My official title is Chief Investigator of the Paranormal at the Committee for Skeptical Inquirer. So I work for CSI, and we are responsible for putting out Skeptical Inquirer magazine, which is a bi-monthly science journal. And it includes, among other things, we get into medicine and politics and a lot of things, like all kinds of sciences. And we also delve into paranormal claims. And I write about different paranormal claims from a scientific and skeptical point of view. And as you mentioned, I also host the Skeptical Help Bar, which is a 2-hour live show that I sometimes have a guest on, which is someone in science and or the paranormal, depending. And we have a nice conversation. It's the bar atmosphere. That's the way I like to describe it. It's pretty much like you go to your local bar, you're hanging out, you meet someone new, you have a conversation, and that's what I love. And when we don't have a guest, we do open mic night, which is basically I sit here and I field questions. I have no idea what people are going to ask me, but if I don't know the answer, we look it up. My studio set up here, I have 3 screens. You're in the middle, and I have one on each side. And I keep Google open because Google knows everything.
Yeah.
And sometimes I have AI. I have Chat GBT up on the other screen because even though it might not always be correct, it gives you a great resource. It gives you a good direction to go. So sometimes I'll ask that now. But that's what I do. I also do a lot of outreach. I lecture on how to solve mysteries and how to deconstruct photographic and video anomalies because I do a lot of photography. I do a lot of video production and editing here at my job. I also curate items for, it's not a museum, but I have a bunch of display cases. I am actually at the Center for Inquiry in Buffalo, New York. I'm in my office right now, and outside my office, there's a whole bunch of display cases with artifacts from my various investigations over the years. So when people come here for different events, I show up and they have questions like, what is that gooey stuff that's in the one display case, which is, I have ectoplasm, like old school spiritualist ectoplasm that I made. I made it in the exact way that was described back then. And it's disgusting. It is disgusting. I wouldn't touch it because well, it's not sticky anymore, and we'll leave it at that. But yeah, and that's pretty much what I do. I mean, I love investigating mysteries, especially when they have a paranormal spin on them. And I mean, this is the greatest job in the world. I can't give it any more praise or describe it any other way. I get to do what I love to do. So
that is awesome.
There you go.
And you started off as a ghost investigator.
Yes.
How did you, and what was it that started you on the path of being a ghost investigator?
So, I mean, I was always interested, and I have a pretty similar story that most people have that are interested in the paranormal. I grew up in the 70s and 80s, so I had shows like In Search Of, Unsolved Mysteries. You know, I mean, when In Search Of, holy crap, when Leonard Nimoy came on the TV, like you were glued to that. And this was pre-internet, pre-DVR days. So it was like Thursday at 8 p.m. You sat your butt in front of that TV because that was the only time you were ever going to see it. And for the foreseeable future, that's the only thing we knew. So I did that, watched those shows. I grew up in a Catholic household. So even though like ghosts weren't really a part of it, it is. And that really fostered that interest. And then as I got older and I got married, the first gift that we gave to ourselves, my wife and I, was a computer. And I remember the salesperson, and this is showing my age. I think we had all of like 24 megabyte memory. And the sales guy is like, you'll never fill that up. That'll be plenty, you know? And now I'm working with like 4, 6, 10 terabyte drives, you know, multiple drives because I have so much stuff. But I scoured the internet and found, you know, that new thing, the World Wide Web, found ghost hunting teams in my area and joined one. And I went out and unfortunately, like I didn't have any critical thinking skills. I pretty much went along with whatever they said. And that's my fault.
I think the critical thinking skills come like once you turn like 30 or 40.
It is definitely a learned process. It is not something you're born with unless you're extremely special. You're not born with those skills. You really have, not only do you have to learn them, but you have to want to learn them. You have to understand what it means and why it's so important. And then you become just so interested and so enthralled with it. You're like, oh, I gotta know more. So yeah, I joined a ghost hunting team. I went out with them a bunch of times. I'm embarrassed to say that I had pictures of orbs. And I was like, yeah, you know, these are great. You know, these are wonderful before I knew anything about photography. And I went to convention. I went to a first convention that was held on the East Coast. I believe it was the first paranormal convention on the East Coast that I went to. And I was just glued to what everybody was speaking about. And then I had an experience where I was in Gettysburg. And do you want to go into this now?
Sure.
Okay. All right, great. I don't know if I was.
No, by all means.
Because I talk a lot, so feel free to shut me up.
It's okay.
Okay. So in Gettysburg, we're at this conference and we're having fun. You know, we're enjoying it. There's other ghost hunters here. There's hundreds of them, and we're having a great time. And Gettysburg is known for the battle, you know, and for ghost hunters, it's not the Battle of Gettysburg. It's all the people that died. And I look back now and I kind of regret my attitude back then because I wasn't thinking about all the people that fought for what they believed in. I was thinking, oh, we're going to see a ghost. We're going to experience a ghost. I didn't care who it was or why. It was just I wanted to experience that. And I think that's the wrong attitude when you're dealing with this, because you're not taking into account the people that once were and
Yeah.
their families today, the descendants that still have to deal with, all these ghost hunting books, which a bunch of are on this shelf back here, that give you names and dates and how they died. And there's really no care about, how does the family feel?
Yeah.
Anyway, all right. So I'm getting off topic. I'm out on one of the battlefields, and we had heard this little spot by the wheat field, and it was like, all right, you go here, nobody knows about it. We had talked to a park ranger, and he was like, yeah, the park rangers don't like going here because it used to be a field hospital during the war, and there's so much activity that we avoided. I don't know if he was screwing with us or not. I really don't know. I kind of think he was, but back then it was like, this is the early or the late 90s. So ghost hunting, if you don't know, was very territorial. Like groups, and you still see that today. Groups had their spaces. They didn't share. They didn't tell you what was going on. If you tried to go in their spot, they fought tooth and nail to keep you away. Sadly, we still see that. But so we found this place. We're the same way. No, we're not telling anyone. Nope, not sharing this. We go out there. We're sitting in the woods, and nothing's really going on. But we're waiting. We're waiting for something to go on. And out past the tree line, across the wheat field, I see a couple cars. They're coming up. They're coming up the road. I see the headlights, and they pull over. There's a little spot for your tourist. So if you're taking the tour, you can pull over, you hit numbers on your CD player or whatever you have, and it plays out like the history. So they pull over and they get out. And I'm getting annoyed because they get out, they're loud, they're flashlights, laser pointers, because laser pointers were a big deal back then. Like if you didn't have an IR temperature gun with a laser pointer, you were not cool. So I see this and I'm getting annoyed. I'm like, all right, maybe they'll just go in a few minutes. But no, they start walking into the wood or in the field, and they're coming towards us. And I'm getting worried now. Like, we're here, they're going to discover us. What's going to happen? They get closer and closer, and finally I lost my temper, and I march out of the woods, and I scream at them. I yell, like, go away, shut up. You're messing this up, go away. And it took a second. They all turned around and ran back to their cars, got in, drove away. I'm like, good. We're good. Our space here is clear. We don't have to worry about it. Next morning, we get up, we go down to the lobby of the conference, and we hear people talking. And they're having experiences for the last night, and we hear one group, it's like, yeah, they saw an apparition. It was a full body apparition of a soldier. And so we're listening, and they're describing it, and they say, oh, yeah, they were at the wheat field. I'm like, I was at the wheat field. This is great. What happened? What time? Oh, it was around like 7 o'clock, I think. And I'm not sure of the time now, but I was like, yeah, we were there. We were in the woods right there. What happened? And they were like, oh, we got there. There was a group of us. We came out, and then the light bulb started to illuminate, over my head going, hey, idiot, like they're talking about you. And I said that. I was like, I think that was me. And they're like, no. It wasn't you. We saw an apparition. I was like, no, I think it was me. Like, did it come out and yell at you? And they're like, it was a ghostly voice. It was booming. I'm like, yeah, they yelled at you. You ran away, right? You ran back to your cars. Well, yeah, that was me. And they're like, no, it wasn't. It wasn't you. I'm like, it was me. And I gave them other details, and they still refused. And then one of them said, you're just trying to steal our spotlight. Just knock it off. You're just lying. And I'm like, that's when it dawned on me, like, they don't care. They don't care about the truth. They're looking for the spotlight. That's what they want. And because I'm telling the truth, it's taking away from them, and they're getting pissed off. And that was really the turning point for me, because I realized, like, all right, how many times did I do this? How many times did I embellish a story or ignore details? Like sometimes on purpose, but other times just because it didn't fit with what I believed. And I already had that belief in my head. How many times did I do this? And I really started taking a closer look at not only my own experiences, but the way I did things, the way I went about investigating. And I mean, we can get into that in a little bit if you want, because I realized I wasn't investigating anything. What I was doing was not an investigation. It was something else. That from that moment on, like I started really, it turned me on to other things. Like I found the magazine that I now work for, Skeptical Inquirer. I found the work of Ben Rafford, Joe Nickel, and then so many others that I was like, these people are actually investigating. They're doing the work and they're figuring out what happened. They're solving that mystery. That's what I want to do. And it was the light bulb got brighter and brighter, and the light bulb called its friends and said, "Hey, come on over." And we got more light bulbs, and I was like, "Holy shit!" Oh, I'm sorry, I don't know if I.
No, it's okay.
Sometimes I start talking, I forget.
It's okay.
But yeah, like things started clicking that I wasn't doing what I was supposed to be doing. That I was making it worse. I was really making it worse. Not only the stories that I was being told from homeowners, but I was making the community worse because I was simply rehashing the same information, the tribal knowledge that was not true.
Yeah.
And so I took blame for that, and I realized like I need to do better. And
the one thing that is my biggest pet peeve when it comes to investigative shows, and you have touched on that as well, where the camera isn't even set down properly. It's just all shaky cam, and you're completely missing everything that they're apparently seeing. But not only that, you think that with the amount of work that they do with psychics, that they would be wanting to help the spirits pass on, like move on to,
Yeah. There's nothing. I mean, okay, I'll say up front, full disclosure, I do not believe in ghosts and spirits. I do not believe psychics. Actually, psychic. I don't think that's a thing, and that's based on the evidence that's presented and personal experiences and testing over the years. But I am part of that disclosure is I'm still open to it. So if anyone wants to like prove that they can do what they say they can do, I'm totally open for that. And I'll sit down with anyone and I'll help. And I'll even help you win $500,000 because there is a legitimate test for that. And I have contacts in it. It's part of my organization. So I'm more than happy to set you up with that because I get a kickback. I mean, I'm into that. But yeah, like the concept that you're touching on here is that most of your ghost hunting community that we see only interested in, I want to get the evidence. We can really go into depth with that. Like even before they get to a location, they are already talking about all the evidence that they're going to get on social media. And they haven't even gotten there yet. One, yeah, you haven't gotten there. So you don't know what you're going to get, if anything. Two, it's not evidence. It's data. You collect data. You have to analyze the data and see if it supports a certain hypothesis before you call it evidence. And that's something in science that people need to understand. And there isn't an understanding because there is no science in this. There's very little science in this community. There's a lot of pseudoscience. There's a lot of, I saw it on TV and they said it was science, therefore I'm doing science. Bullshit. Yeah. You're not doing science.
I like Carl's comment here with if they help move ghosts along, then they can't come back and do another show. And that is so true.
That is a good one. I like that, Carl. That's spot on because like if you let's benefit of the doubt. If everything is true and a house is actually haunted by some spirit who was a person, they died a long time ago, why are they staying there? Is there a reason? All right. This is really going into the Hollywood version of what happens. Why are they there? And are you there to solve the mystery and or hopefully end help the alleged spirit that's there move on to whatever they need to move on to? Or are you there for selfish reasons? Are you there just to get your pictures, your EVPs, your videos or whatever and say, hey, I can post now on social media and say, look at what we did. We caught all this stuff. And then you leave.
Mhm.
And then, a month or two later, you go back to get more. It's what are you trying to do here? And that's one of my major questions with groups when I meet them. Like, what's your end game? What are you striving for? What are you working for? Are you just doing it like because you saw this? Is it like a TV show that was really good and you love watching the reruns? Like when it comes on again, do you sit there on the couch and watch the same thing over and over and over and over again? I mean, I'm not complaining because I watched all the Marvel movies like 27,000 times because I'm a big geek.
Yeah.
I do that too. But is that what you're doing? Like in this, and I can actually say in this line of work, because this is my job, I want to solve the mystery. I want to know what the question is, what's going on. There's activity. What's causing that activity? Let me see if I can figure out what it is. And to piggyback on that, I'm not going in there to debunk. This is a common misconception. Debunking is not what I'm going in there to do. Debunking is part of the result. If I'm going in there to investigate a claim and find out that all the data points to like someone sleepwalking or a cat that just loves to knock shit off the shelves all the time because cats do that.
Yep.
If that's what we find out, and that's what we find out caused the activity, then we solve the mystery. That's what I want to do. And whether it's a psychic claim or photos from a famous haunted case or whatever it is, I want to know what's going on. And
Yeah.
I mean, if something happens to be true, awesome. I mean, that's what I would consider a good skeptic. And this is just my perspective. A good skeptic is someone that has doubts, wants to find the truth. And if they find the truth, doesn't follow through with their personal beliefs, that's fascinating. Like that's mind-blowing because that changes everything. And you're a part of that. So if I can find a ghost, if I can have one sit down next to me and have an interview, I have an extra microphone if anyone wants to pop in. Sit down next to me, all translucent. I can poke it, go through it and stuff like that. I'm totally happy. I'm more happy than anything, but it just doesn't happen for me. But I'm still open for that.
With with some of your videos that you've done for debunking, you totally shattered my mind when it came to the Connect, them using the Xbox Connect to to see ghosts, and that totally blew my mind watching that video.
That was fun to make. Honestly, all my videos are fun to make, and I'm not. I know I'm biased. I know I'm so biased. And I'm not trying to pimp them out. I'm just saying they're so much fun to make because, like I did the one video where it explained the first version of the Kinect, because there's two. First version I did because that was the one everyone was using. It was the one you could get cheap, and I wanted people to understand that you don't have to pay $150 or $250, whatever the price is, for that system, because one, the software is free. You can download it. The only thing that you get extra is that the ghost. I don't even know what you would call them. I wouldn't call them a manufacturer because they're not manufacturing it. The ghost suppliers are just putting a frame around it. Like you have a background here. That's all they're doing is putting like a frame around the software that already is available for free.
Yeah.
So there's a problem with that because I think some people are selling stuff they're not supposed to. But in addition, you could go to a flea market or a yard sale and pick one of these up for $5. And I did. I have 3 or 4 of them, older ones that I just picked up at yard sales. I was like, all right, no one's using it. How much? $5? All right. But also, I also like, well, $5, how about two? $2? 3? All right, 3. We're good. All right. So I have a bunch of them, and I was able to test it. I mean, the only thing you really had to pay for was an adapter for some of them. And once you got that and you played with it, you realized the software is not perfect. The software makes mistakes, and Microsoft knows it. And I talked to Microsoft. I talked to some of the designers, and they're like, yeah, we had problems with it, especially if somebody sat down. Because once you sit down, you take away the thigh, and it screws them up. Also think that a lot of these games were you're the player, you're the controller, so you had to get up and move. And when you turn sideways, like this arm disappears, this leg disappears. So the software had to make guesses in order to know, all right, where would that arm be? Let me guess. So taking this into account, seeing so many times where I've had it like in my office, in my basement, and it zeroing in or locking onto a trash bag, a backpack, a chair, all of these things, and just having these weird, and they're not like cool looking stick figures. These are like space alien, like mutant stuff going on, because sometimes yeah, like one arm
appear
like
and they will look like they're dancing.
One arm's all the way out here, reaching out. You have to take that into account and realize, all right, this is glitching. Something's going on. It's mistaking a like piece of furniture for a person, and it's assigning a stick figure. And because it's not sure, it's making guesses, and it's making guesses multiple times a second. That's why you're getting like the whole jittery thing. Yeah. And even though you demonstrate that over and over again, you're still going to have people that see it and be like, no, not mine. My stick figures are real. And then you really have to get into the science behind it and the evidence. Like, all right, what did your stick figure do? And that's one of the challenges that I had issued in the original video, is that these stick figures are anchored to one spot. They don't go anywhere. They stay one spot. Yeah. Unless you move the camera. If you move the camera or somebody in the scene moves in front of it, because now you're blocking whatever it locked onto, then it locks onto you. But if you move the camera, it can also disappear. So I've had stick figures on ceiling fans. I've had it on the like archway between like a living room, dining room, entertainment center. I've actually set it up where it was only about 6 inches from a stucco wall in a basement, and it picked up a stick figure where it could only see like that much, and there was a stick figure in it. So you're like, oh, so you're like a 2-inch ghost. No, that's not what we were seeing. So because of that challenge, it was a couple years later that somebody brought to my attention a TikTok/YouTube channel where the stick figures were actually walking around. And it looked like a human. They were walking around doing things, and I watched the videos and I was like, how the hell are they doing that? I don't know. Okay. Then I found out they were using the second version. Okay, now I got to get a second version. So I reached out 2 people right away. It's like, I have one. I don't use it. You can have it. So I got them. I was able to play with it. Realized that you could change the infrared intensity setting so that when you're looking at the screen, instead of seeing a black and white image of the area, it's all white. Everything's all white. And then your stick figures, it still sees you when you come in the frame. It puts a stick figure on you and you can move around. With simple editing software, you green screen out or you key out the white and you're left with a stick figure. So I was able to make not only a video where several stick figures are around me, walking around, some are dancing, but I also had them knock stuff off shelves. And it was fun because when I started that video, I didn't know how to do it. I had no idea. I just started like, all right, let me start explaining what I know about this new version, and then we'll work it through. And that's what I did for a week. By the end of the video, I figured it out. And that was so much fun because I was like, oh, we got it. We figured it out. Oh, this is fun. Let's do it again. and it was just fascinating, that whole journey. And I think that part we're missing from the whole ghost hunting community.
And that's what I enjoy about your videos is not only are you learning how to do like the editing, and how other ghost hunters do their trick of the trades, you're taking us for a ride as well, and we're learning with you how this is done.
Yeah.
And I admire what you are doing with that. And another one of your videos that I absolutely love is one of your most recent ones where you take the voice recorder and you explain how that thing worked.
Yes. That was fun.
Old technology that is being used today.
Yeah, I mean, it's something. There's a lot of old technology, and even when you look at the gadgets today, so many are the same. Like when you look at the REM pod, and then you look at like some of the trigger objects, the teddy bears and the pets and stuff like that, they're all the same. They all have the same main component inside. There's nothing different except for the outer shell. There's a dozen or so gadgets that I have out in a display case out in the lobby here, and they're all the same once you bust it open and look inside. And I think that's the thing. Like, I take donations for equipment because I don't want to pay $100, $200, $300 because I know I'm going to take it apart and it might not go together the same way. And it usually never does, because I'm like, well, some of these things are sealed up and I have to break them. I have to crack it open, so it's nice when people are done with it and they don't want to use it anymore and they donate it, because now I can take it apart, and I don't have that fear. But with the DR60, which is that's the recorder that I did the video on, that was seen as like the Holy Grail. It was described multiple times as the Holy Grail because it was so great at getting ghost voices. And it actually doesn't get ghost voices. It gets scratchy noises. But in the context of what you're doing, yes, you can sit there and listen to it, and it kind of sounds like someone is in the background talking. And part of that is because we're biased and we're primed. We want to hear something. And the other part is that the audio quality is so shitty that, and I say it in the video, it's actually worse than the old phone line system.
Yeah.
So for those of us that used to talk for hours on a corded phone, we know how bad that was. And you don't realize how bad it was until you like listen to your cell phone now. And you're like, it's almost like they're right next to you talking to you. But back then, the quality was so bad. And when you compare the specs, and that was the key, finding the specs. Not only finding the specs, maybe that was just thought about or assumed, but I found the actual documents where the details were listed. And that's really important, because that gave me the actual numbers, and I was able to compare it and say, look, this is official. This is from Panasonic. They're telling you what the specs are, and what we thought was true is true. And that makes it really bad.
Yeah. And when you have Panasonic actually stating, yeah, we regret making this thing, there's an issue.
I mean, you know what? I think I said it in the video. I kind of compare it to the Sony Mavica, the camera, the digital camera that we got, because that was the first consumer level digital camera that was available. And I have one on my shelf over here. It took floppy disks, the 3¼ inch discs, which were terrible. The images were terrible, but we loved it because it was like, we didn't have to take a roll of film from a camera like this, send it off in a box or an envelope to the drugstore and say, hey, I'm going to wait 3 days, or I'm going to pay extra and get it back tomorrow so I can see what I got. This was something that was instant. And even though it was incredibly crappy, we still loved it because it was instant. We saw the picture right away. We could download it on our computer and say, wow, look at this. Because some of us still have a floppy drive. I still have one because you don't know. You need this stuff. I literally have a floppy drive that I plug in because I still find people send me stuff on it. But it was instant. It was right away. And with the DR60, it was an integrated circuit. It was the DR60 IT or IC recorder, and it was like no moving parts. That's something people still don't realize. Like there were no moving parts in it except what you moved. So when you hit record, no moving parts, no internal noise.
Mhm.
Awesome. This is something we could use. We get an hour's worth. It was voice activated. We didn't waste time in between. It only started when it picked up a voice. It didn't. But it still gave us that space. It gave us that instant satisfaction, gratification. So we latched onto it. And actually it did Panasonic a favor because so many people bought it. And when the ghost hunting community got wind of it, like, oh, we can get excellent results, people ran out, bought them. And it funded the next version, which was better quality. I mean, it was almost double the quality of the original, the next version, which is what I have. I have the QR or something. But it was so much better. And in that video, I actually compare it. I have two recordings from both of them. And it's easy to see the difference. So being able to explain that, I think is really important. I don't want to give just my opinion. I don't want people just to say, well, you're just a skeptic. You're going to say that. Well, yeah. But I want to back it up. I want to be able to say, like, I'm saying this because A, B, C, D, all the way through Z and then double digits. I want to give you all the reasons why and all the references. So that's what you'll see. And that's something like, especially in that video, like every time I reference something, it comes up on screen so you can see it. You can go there yourself and find it. And if I'm wrong, you can prove it. There's my work. I show my work. That's how I grew up. You didn't just give an answer. You showed your work. And if you didn't, you failed. So that's what I'm used to. And I think it makes a big difference between being just a skeptic or an armchair skeptic / cynic that just dismisses things and a skeptical person that says, hey, you know what? I want to look into this. I'm going to investigate this honestly and then give you a full report on what I found. So, yeah, that was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed that.
Now, you do a lot of debunking on TikTok, and I know that you do a lot of work on YouTube. Do you recall what is your most hated video because of your debunking?
Most hated video. Wow. Man, I don't.
I've noticed that YouTube doesn't keep track of the the thumbs down on your videos anymore. So my most hated video when I did the debunking of the chip has gone away. So
I think on TikTok, I know that the most uproar I got, because you don't really know if they hate it unless you read the comments, and I don't. I really don't read the comments because once I get done something, I'm done. I move on to something else. Excuse me, but I think the most the one that caused the most stir was one I did on dowsing rods, because I have a rig. I have a test rig that was done by a friend of mine, Mitch Silverstein, who it's basically two acrylic blocks, and the handles of the dowsing rods are locked in. There's locking screws that lock them into these two blocks, so you can't do this. And it's a testing tool. That's all it is, and that's how I present it. It's a testing tool. You put the rods back into the sleeves, so you're still holding the sleeves just like you normally would, but now they can't be manipulated either on purpose or by accident. So I use this a lot, and I did a video where I showed people, like, this is what I use. I've been using it for years. No one's been able to use them because they can't manipulate them. And again, it's not because I'm saying everyone deliberately does it. A lot of people that I've met, I think, are genuine. They don't realize that they're moving their hands. And there's another test you can do with a video camera. And you actually put the video camera on level with their arm. So when they're holding it like this, you put it right on level so they're straight, and then you record them doing it. They're not allowed to go up or down or move around. They stay here. They do it. And then when you take the video and you speed it up, you get to see this. You get to see the motion. And it's subtle, but when you speed it up, it becomes more pronounced. So I did that video, put it out there, and I got a lot of hate. A lot of hate came with that because they were like, no, you're not doing it right. It has to be over water. And that was one of the big concerns. It wasn't that you could talk to ghosts or not. It was as long as you're under or over top of water that is moving, can't be standing which conflicts with other stories I've heard. But as long as it's moving, they'll cross. So I did a follow-up video where my wife and I went out. We started the video. It was just, we lost one.
No, we lost Kale. It's okay. She'll come back.
So we started a video. We went out, and you see us like we're outside. And at the beginning of the video, I'm like, I've gotten a lot of people saying that I didn't test it right, that you need to be over running water. So I came out to the biggest running water that I know of, the Atlantic Ocean. And we were on the beach. And I literally had the rods in the rig, and I walked out into the water. They didn't move. I went over to a drainage pipe that had water coming in and out. And I was like, here we go. I climbed up on it, and I walked along it, and nothing happened. And I was like, look, again, I'm saying this is a good testing tool, but it's not working. So all your complaints, all your hate is unfounded. You know, if you can show me that it works with this rig, and I'll bring it to you, like you come to me, there's a testing facility we have here. You're welcome to try it. But it just didn't happen. So I think that was the most hate that I got. For any YouTube video, I don't look at luckily I give them to my work. I give it to the IT guy. He posts them on our channel, and I don't go back. I don't read anything because I know there's people that are pissed off. I know they're hate. I mean, I saw some of the comments on social media about the DR60. Some people disagreed with me, and hey, you can disagree. That's cool, but bring it. Bring what do you have? Why are you disagreeing?
And it's always people like, oh, I saw this at my cousin Steve's place, or something along that line, where it's like, this is true. This happened to, and it's always either a family member or one of their friends. Yeah, and it's never actually happened to them.
Right, right, and hey, that goes back to, and I know this it's kind of making a joke, but that goes back to the cool story, bro category. Like you can tell me all the stories you want. That's great. And sometimes it's a starting point for an investigation, but it doesn't prove anything. It's just a story that you're telling me. And I don't know if it's true. I don't know if you're making this up, because you could. I mean, people do that. They're like, oh yeah, I know somebody. Like what I get most of the time is, especially if it's a photo, if it's a photograph that they think has something in it, like a ghost or a Bigfoot or something like that. And they're like, hey, we had like 10 photographers look at this, professional photographers. And my response is, great. What are their names? And once that comes up, whoa, I can't tell you that. They did it in confidence or some bullshit. Nope. Not going to work. If you're not going to give names, doesn't matter. That's just like me going, well, I had 20 photographers look at your photo and said it was false.
Yeah.
So where are we now? You need to bring something more than just that. And if you give me a name, I'll contact them. And I'm not going to contact a photographer and say, hey, a-hole, you're doing this, you're doing that. No, I'll say, hey, this person said you looked at their photo. I'm curious about what you found, why you said it might be real. Like, can we talk about this? And I think that's happened once or twice. And it's always going nice. The conversation has been nice. And usually I find out that, they contacted them, but they didn't really talk about it. Or the photographer's like, well, no, I didn't say it was a ghost. I just said Welcome it was, back. Hey, good. I'm glad you're back.
Is everything okay on your end, Dale?
Bathroom.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Man, it's funny. Kale's cats were very active in the background of her. So if you guys hear my cats screaming for whatever reason, I don't know that it's not a full moon that I'm aware of. Cats just want to be crazy today.
Yeah, I'm not a cat person. Totally allergic.
No.
I cannot. If I walk into a house with cats, nope. My breathing's. I start wheezing. My eyes puff up. I can't do it.
Oh no.
Nothing against cats personally, except that they are the seed of the devil. But yeah.
No, I agree with you. I have one that I call Banshee because he'll run up the stairs and he'll sit right here in front of me and scream. So yeah, and he's an orange cat, of course. But no. Speaking of the devil, he appears. No. When it comes to ghosts and spirits and stuff like that, there's an old place, and now he starts singing. There's an old house that is known for doing spirit boards and trying to bring forth the ghosts and all that, and they apparently have proof that spirits exist, and it's photo manipulation from the late 1800s, early 1900s. Okay. And I know that you've touched on that too, where photography, like photos, were so easy to manipulate even now, and doing the old deep fake with doing like the double negatives.
Okay. Yeah. Go ahead. Keep going.
No, go right ahead. I know you've touched on that with some of the stuff that you've done.
So there's a couple different ways. It's another common misconception that Photoshop is the only way there's ever been photo manipulation, and that cannot be further from the truth. I can point right about here, this bookshelf. This is all photography books. This shelf and the one below it, it's all about old school photography. I think out of all of them, there might be 2 that are modern digital manuals. The rest are old school, telling you how to make collages, how to do special effects. I have Kodak manuals. Kodak put out almost like a Time Life book series on photography and different techniques. And there's one like darkroom techniques, there's special effects techniques, and it's amazing the things that you can come up with old school photography. So you could do collages where you merged different pictures together. What you were just mentioning about combining negatives. The contraption here, the blue here, and it goes down. This is actually a huge, it's called an enlarger. So a negative would go in the top. There's a lamp, and it shines down onto photographic paper. Use it in a darkroom. If I put 2 negatives in there, I can combine them and do one print. And with that, when you think it through, I can combine 2 negatives where maybe I have like a stairway scene, like a nice set of stairs. And then I have one negative that has nothing but a figure in the middle of it. Say that you photographed on a black background. So when you do that, because it's a negative, black doesn't show up. Black is clear on a negative. So if I combine them, I can make it look like there's a figure somewhere on the steps, on the stairway, like a certain famous photo that we all know about. So I can create that. And once I merge them and make one print, now I can take a picture of that print, and I have a negative, an original negative. So there you go. Now I can show people, I can actually develop that film in front of someone and say, look, you saw it. I developed a negative. That figure is there, and it's transparent. Wow, I caught a ghost. Yeah. That's one way of doing it. Another way, which is what I really love, is the use of a retouching desk. And retouching desks were more popular when you used glass plate photography. So for those that don't know, way before film, you used glass plates. It was a plate of glass, and it was coated with certain chemicals and that were light sensitive. And you put it in your camera, you exposed it for a few seconds up to a few minutes, and it would create an image. So you would then take that once you had that and it was good. You developed it, you fixed it so it wouldn't be exposed, or it wouldn't be light sensitive anymore. You could then take that plate and you put it on this desk, and it was a little folding desk. I have one actually out in the lobby, and it had a translucent base where you put the glass frame on it. You put it by the window so sunlight could come in, reflect off of a mirror underneath, and shine through the translucent base, and you could see the negative. And mostly women would sit there for hours with a penknife and India ink, and they would scrape away certain parts and then fill in with the ink other parts.
Oh,
This was really like intensive work. Took hours to do one plate. Hours. What we do right now with a few clicks took them all day, sometimes days. And there's examples of it. If you look online, there's examples where like people would have like a growth, like a tumor on their neck, and completely gone in the finished product. Amazing what they could do. So yeah, there was a article I wrote about a photograph from the 1900, the year 1900, and I think it's a group of Irish linen workers, all women. And when you look closely, there is a hand, a disembodied hand on one of their shoulders, and it doesn't go to a body. And it took me a long time. It took me a little bit to figure out what happened. And I actually found evidence of a person was removed from the end of the photograph, and the woman behind where that person was drawn in. Like the dress, the bottom part of the dress was actually drawn in. And that's who belonged to the hand. I don't know who the hand belonged to, really. But I realized, like, all right, this is where it came from. So it's not a floating hand. It's not just, a joke. I mean, that took a while, but I'm sure that was like a few days worth of work. And that was in 1900 that they did that. A lot of work being done. And that that goes to show you, like, don't just believe a photograph because it's old. It doesn't mean anything. You could still manipulate it. It still can be done. So,
and like I did basic photography in high school, and I remember one of the projects that we had to do was like make a picture using two negatives and kind of make a ghost image. Oddly enough, I actually had a weird double image on one negative that I don't know if I don't know what happened when I developed the film, but it just like the image itself had two images. I'm like, I wonder how that worked.
So, well, that's cool. I mean, double exposure is something that still happened with mechanical cameras. It still happened, even if it had automatic advancing. It could still happen.
Yeah.
What else? There was Polaroid cameras. Like, those are known for instant cameras, like you took a picture, you pushed a button, came out. And so many people have said you can't do double exposures with Polaroids, but you can. There's a way to do it. You can actually manipulate the opening. So in the front of the camera where it opens, you can actually have that slightly open. And when you take the picture, it won't spit it out. And then when you close it, you can actually take the picture again, and it'll expose the same film, and you'll have a double exposure. And my coworker, Eric, who is behind this wall here, not right now, but he works behind there, he picked up, like, we both collect vintage cameras, and he picked up a Polaroid, and he called me, and he's like, hey, is this normal? And he would take a picture, nothing would happen, and he would take another one, and it was double exposing. Like, that's how it worked. It only spit out a frame every other photo, but it had both images on it. And I was like, dude, do not fix that. That is awesome. That is like one of a kind. I've never seen one do that. Keep that. And I was like, if you ever want to get rid of it, I will buy it off of you because I want that. Because I think that's a major piece. That's information there. That'll help me later on. But yeah, I love photography. I absolutely love photography. I have probably like 150 cameras, old cameras from 1890 all the way up to now on my shelves over here, and I use them all. I've shot them all just to see how they worked, and see if I can do something with them. Can I make, because like the TikTok videos we were talking about, sometimes I sit here and I go through them like, oh, I don't know how they did this, and that's my day. That's the best part of my job. I sit here sometimes and like, I'm going to be on TikTok today. That's it. And I go through and I pick one that I want to try to recreate, and I do it. And sometimes it takes me a few minutes. Sometimes it takes me a couple days, but I figure it out on the way. And it's nice to have some of the cameras that are used. Like with the Amityville, I have the cameras. With the I did one article on the Entity case, which is another famous case. But I had the cameras they used back then. So I was able to use the original cameras and take the same photos under the same conditions and get the same results. And that's really important to me. That's how you investigate. If you can use the original equipment, that's what you do.
Yeah.
So
with your job that you have, do you believe in manifesting what you want and getting what what you manifest?
Like put your mind to it, you'll get what you want kind of thing. I mean,
power positive thinking.
I don't think that's metaphysical. I think that's just determination and like the level of determination that you put into it. I've wanted this job forever. Like this is what if I believed I had a destiny, this was it. This is what I was made to do because I do it good. This is really one of the few things that I'm good at. And I'm not trying to brag. It's just I'm good at it and I love it. And my passion for it never subsides. I don't feel that burnout. Like if I know I'm getting, because everybody experiences burnout. And once I get there, like I start getting there and I feel like, I've had enough of dealing with people yelling at me, I'll just go do something else. Like I have other hobbies where I paint or, I try anything that just different and I go out and do it and then I come back, but just being able to do this every day, I did that. I take credit for that because I knew what I wanted and I kept working towards it. When I started doing work for like Skeptical Inquirer, I submitted some articles. And I mean, this is the kind of magazine where you don't get paid for it. You submit articles because you like it, because you have something to say and you can back up what you say. So I did that. And it got positive feedback. It got negative feedback, but it also got positive feedback. And I also learned along the way how to write articles properly. Like I was just doing it like a blog post, writing whatever the hell I wanted, not referencing, not caring where I got the information, and just giving my opinion as if it was fact. And that was wrong, at least from my end. And I learned over the way because I have an editor. He tells me, you can't write this, or you can't do it this way, or you need to back this up. How do you know this? Big question. How do you know that? And I have to show my work. References. I have to show that. So I learned on the way how to do this, and it became better and better. And I love it. I love doing this. I lost my train of thought. What was the question?
I was just saying that asking if you believe in manifesting what you want.
So yeah, I kept going, and I would check in with the right people. Like, hey, am I doing a good job? Do you guys want me to keep doing this? Yes, we like it. And then there was a point where I came up here because I lived in Philadelphia, and I came up here to visit Joe Nickel. And Joe Nickel is if you don't know Joe Nickel and his work, you need to. The gentleman has been doing this, I think, almost 60 years now. And
wow.
I mean, yeah, he's done everything from religious miracles to ghosts to demons to cryptids to whatever. He's done it. He's been called in by churches to help investigate claims of miracles. So the guy knows his shit. And luckily, he's a buddy of mine. Like, he comes down and visit me now. He had this job before me, so I would check with him, and he would say I'm doing a good job, which is great. My editor now, Ben Rafford, he keeps telling me I did a good work, and that's good. That it's not just like I'm looking for praise. It's I'm looking, hey, am I on the right track? Am I doing what I'm supposed to be doing? If not, tell me. And then there came a time where I was up here, and my boss now, I was sitting in his office talking to him, and there's a plaque on his wall that looks like that plaque right there. And I said, hey, that's a fellowship, a CSI fellowship for the company I work for. That means you did a lot of work, and you're being recognized by the community. And I said, how do I get one of these? Like, what do I have to do to get one of these? And he's like, keep doing what you're doing. People are noticing. And I took that as, all right, no, I'm doing a good job. People like what I do. Now I got to do more. And that's my only thought. Not like, ooh, I'm going to get an award. It was, now I have to double down. I have to do more to because I love this. I love this work.
Yeah.
And I did that. And within a year, I was awarded that. And I was like, this is great. I was so excited. And then I kept doing more. It just made me want to do more and more and more. And getting support from people that did like what I was doing, and even those that didn't like what I was doing, but then realized, like, all right, I see what you're saying, and I understand it better. That kind of support is just phenomenal, and it just makes you want to do more. And that's where I am. I got here because I was determined to get here, and I mean, that's positive thinking. Yeah, I was positive I was going to get this damn job. I was going to make it happen, and so I credit myself for doing it, and the people that supported me over the years, and everyone that helped me out. If I asked for like advice on something, they gave it freely. People that I asked to help volunteer for experiments, I mean, those people, they put a lot of trust in me because I don't know what's
and it's
happen.
awesome that you have such a supporting wife that puts up with a lot of what you
God.
do. Like, talk about it. Like, my husband often tells me not to bring home my work, but you, it seems like your wife doesn't mind you doing experiments at home.
She gets involved a lot, and more so before we came up here, because now it's like during the day, if I have something that I want to do, like my door is usually open. The only time I close my door is when I'm recording. But it's usually open, and I'll be sitting here going, looking at TikTok, going, you know what? Like, Eric, and he'll be like, what? I'm like, you busy? I need a volunteer. He's like, yeah, what do you got? And I mean, I've had people run around, like jump down stairways, climb onto a cart, push it down the aisle, all weird things, and they all love to do it. My wife did it a lot. And she still does it when she's here because she does volunteer here at the center. Or if I'm home and I have an idea, I'm like, hey, we should try this. And like I have a helmet and safety goggles over here for people because sometimes, like I did one experiment where I took a phone, like an old school phone, and I was yanking it across them. And the young lady that helped me, I was like, this is going to be on video, and I know that our legal team is going to have a problem with this. So put the helmet on just in case. And here's some safety goggles. Put it on. And then once we're done and we publish the video, then I'll tell them. And that's what we did. And then I got a letter. I got an email from the lawyer like, you're supposed to tell me this before you do it. I'm like, that's why I didn't tell you. But yeah, I mean, we have a lot of fun, and my wife is just awesome. I mean, she puts up with so much shit from me. I wouldn't be able to put up with that much, but she does a great job, and a lot of the stuff I couldn't have done without her help.
Now, is your wife a fellow nerd?
Not really. Not like I'm a big nerd with like tech and comic books and all kinds of stuff like that. She's gotten nerdier on the way. Like since knowing me, yeah, she's I think her inner nerd has come out much more. She's not afraid to like let it flow all over the place. So we have fun. I mean, like I took her to her first Comic-Con, and she had never been to one. She was expecting to be like, these people are effing weird. And I mean, granted, yeah, we are, but she enjoyed it. And I got her to like, we built costumes. We were the Teen Titans one year. And like I had the whole cyborg costume that I built. And I forget who she was, but made costumes. And now she loves it. She loves going. She loves to dress up, and she realizes you can be that. So yeah, she's great. She really is great.
So Carl made the Einfeld poltergeist examination.
No, it wasn't the Enfield. It was a different poltergeist case. One that had, if you look it up, it's there's famous.
That was the pictures. Columbia poltergeist.
Yeah, Columbus poltergeist.
Sorry.
Yeah. Because there was supposed to be a documentary coming out about that. So we did a video on some of the main points. We didn't touch on all of it. And I know some people were upset, like, you didn't go into the parapsychology side of it. And I was like, that's not what I was focused on. That's honestly, I was focused on what was brought up in the media.
I can promise you there was another podcast that kind of touched on the murder mystery aspect of it, though.
Yeah. There's so much to that story, and I did reach out to the well, she's not young lady anymore, but I did reach out to her to try to talk to her, but she didn't return. I mean, I don't know if she got it or not. I went through the whole process because she's still in jail. And I went through the whole process of getting mail, like actual physical mail to her, but I haven't heard anything back, so I don't know. I'm going to try again because, I mean, I'd love to talk to her. And that's one of the things, like one of my points is always to go to the source. Like primary sources are your big thing. And I could not go, unfortunately, that case, I can't go to any of the primary sources. Because the parents, her foster parents are dead, I believe. She's in prison, and the parapsychologist that went and interviewed her and tested her, he passed away. So I can't talk to anybody except for her. And I would really like to speak to her and just ask, like flat out, was this real or did you make it up? And I'm not going to be mean about it. I just want to know. I'm not going to be like, I knew it or you're lying. I want to know her side of it now. She's not a teenager anymore. I want to know what she thinks of it now.
Yeah. So, Carl, positive thinking helps when it's followed up with positive work.
Absolutely. And I mean, that's completely off like paranormal topic, but it's a really good lesson or a good topic to talk about because you can think all day long, I want that job. I want that job. But if you don't do shit to get it, you're not going to get it.
Yeah.
That's it. I knew this was something that was more involved. I'm not going to write an article and, like, oh, everybody love me now. This is continuation. You have to continually do what you're doing and do it good and not sit or rest on what you've done before. Like I do a job, I do a video or I do an article. And once it's done, once it's published, I move on to the next thing. I don't look back until it comes up. If somebody wants to do like an interview or a show and talk about that specific thing, yes, I'll go back and read or watch the video. But otherwise, it's, all right, what's the next mystery? Let's keep moving. What are people interested in? What have people messaged me about? That's one good thing about the show that I do on Friday nights. When I do open mic night, that gives me ideas because people ask questions, and I don't know the answer all the time. I mean, sometimes I do, other
Yeah.
times I don't, and several times it's like, well, let's look it up, and we look it up. I share the screen, and we look it up together, and I realize, all right, this is more involved. This is much more involved than we can do on this show. So I'm going to write it down, and that goes on my list. And I actually have a list up here. I'm going to show you real quick on my window. Those are lists of topics that I want to cover.
Oh,
Either
fantastic!
Yeah, and it's fantastic, but they're long. There's so much, and I thought, like, once I got up here, I'd have plenty of time to do all this stuff, and I have less time. Because I'm doing these, I'm involved with so many other projects that have to do with work in general, and stuff. Like I think I was telling you before the show, like we have a gentleman speaking tomorrow from Nigeria. He flew over from Nigeria. He is a human activist, human rights activist, and he protects and fights for people that have been accused of witchcraft over in South Africa and in Nigeria, where he's from. It's horrible. The stories that he tells me about this, it's not like being here and just saying somebody's like, oh, you practice witchcraft, you're evil. No, you get accused, people try to kill you, like really kill you and dismember you and do all kind. Like I won't get into details, but it's so graphic and so horrible and horrendous. But he came in. I've been following his work for years, and today was the first time I met him in person, and I had dinner with him. It was so nice, and he's going to speak tomorrow. I'm going to interview him tomorrow during the day, and we're going to talk about more of this, and I'm going to edit everything together into one video and put it up on our channel so everyone can hear and learn about this, and hopefully reach out and help him because he's doing great work.
Yeah,
great work.
We're a little over time, but that's okay. That I knew that this was going to happen.
Told you I talk a lot.
Kenny, I appreciate you. You're welcome to come on the show anytime. And
Cal, you have not spoken the entire show.
I'm just in awe listening to all of the interesting stories. Like, really?
Okay, that's awesome. I'm glad. Did you enjoy it?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Like, I need to look you up. I need to look into all of these investigations, all these debunkings. Like, I'm here for it.
Awesome. Good.
So I will try it. Where can we find you on social media, Kenny?
You can find me. I'm on Facebook. My main page is I am Kenny Biddle, and I'm not like all about myself. It's the reason I named it that is because so many pages were different names, and you didn't know who ran them, and they just said whatever they wanted. And I wanted people to understand, like, this is coming from me. I am Kenny Biddle. This is where the opinion is coming from. So you can find me there. Yeah, right there. And I'm on Twitter at Kenny Biddle, I think 42. I don't know. I think I get them all mixed up. I'm on TikTok. If you look me up on TikTok, you can find Kenny Biddle CSI. So I do a lot of my debunking videos on there. And then, of course, if you go to skepticalinquirer.org, you can look up my articles and my videos there. I'm on the Center for Inquiry YouTube channel. So there's a lot up there so far. There's a total. I'm trying to hit that 100 mark. I'm at like 80 articles and videos up on there so far. And I have a lot more in the works. There's always like 4 or 5 that I'm juggling at the same time. And then somebody will walk in and, hey, have you heard about this? No, but now I'm going to look into it all day. But yeah, there you go. That's awesome. And that's pretty much it. I mean, you can reach out to me. I have an email, kbiddle@centerforinquiry.org. If you want to reach out to me, if you have a photo or video or something that you want to get a second opinion on or a skeptical opinion, you're welcome to send it to me there, and I'll take a look. And that's it.
And I appreciate these comments, by the way. I'm so sorry. I am not purposely trying to ignore you. You guys are all... I have
cool.
some of my usual commenters and some new ones. So thank you very much for being part of the show as well as Kenny. You guys are always awesome in the chat and keeping me focused on the task at hand. I know this show can get pretty, off the rails.
That's good though. I like it. It's very nice and flowing and conversational. I like that.
Thank you. That's the thing. Like I don't like to. I'm very bad at putting down questions ahead of time. So I just like to let the conversation flow. And if I have questions, I'll ask them. But
honestly, I don't. For most of my show, and I do it every week, I don't write questions. I never do. I usually have like an outline of like, oh, they've done this, they've done that. My first question to everyone, and I don't know if I know we're over, but my first question is always like, what's your origin story? How'd you get here? And I let them tell. And then from there, it's like, oh, I write down, I have my notepad always next to me, and I write down things like, all right. And then like today, the R60. Most hated video, TikTok, positive thoughts. Like I just write down notes. So like, all right, we can flow from that. And I'm going to ask questions. And I love it. I love that kind of conversation. It feels very natural.
Oh, thank you. That's what I strive for when it comes to these shows.
Awesome.
Creepy Kale, where can we find you on social media?
Instagram, Creepy Kale.
Awesome. And you guys can find me all over social media. I'm on TikTok, Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram. And I apologize, my cat's making noises and throwing stuff off the counters.
Devil seed.
Thank you guys for tuning in to Cryptid Crunch. You guys tune in a couple of weeks. We're going to have another great show and hopefully another great guest. So take care, guys. Thank you for tuning in. You guys are awesome.